Hello and welcome to Pensive Podcast. I'm your host, Chloe, and I'm the owner and creative consultant of Pensive Studio. I also hand make planners and I run one-to-one consultations and I do workshops. So if you're interested, please have a look at our website and stay to the end for more info. Today's topic is about using our senses. I wanted to start by thinking about sight in particular, how we look at things. I think we're so deeply entrenched in visuals, having such a strong visual culture, like, I don't know, anything to do with pop culture or Instagram, social media kind of things. We're constantly being bombarded with different visuals. And I kind of want to think about how we approach that in terms of perception. When we look at something, are we critiquing it or are we taking it as is? This small sense has so much impact on our perception and how we approach things in our day to day. I wanted to go back to when I was living in Tokyo because there's something very particular about Tokyo architecture that lends itself to how you perceive things and how you look at things. And it was something I had to learn. And I don't know why. Maybe it's probably the same in other countries. I have no idea. I've only ever lived in London and Tokyo. But a lot of interesting venues like bars, cafes, pop-ups, events, etc. They're always on like the 7th floor of a building or the 15th floor. And so when you initially arrive, you kind of get used to walking and looking at everything just like in your immediate surroundings, just to hear like, oh, there's a convenience store, oh, there's a shop, oh, there's this and that and that. But after you've been there for a while and you've become more familiar with how Tokyo is built, because it is built in a way, because the city is so compact, like they have to build up. So you end up understanding like, oh, okay, if I can't find it here at my eye level, it will be up somewhere. So if you're walking around Shibuya, for example, a lot of the most interesting places are on like the 15th floor, and you look out for like tiny, tiny signs on the side of like a building. It'll be like, just a little sign saying on the 15th floor we have this bar, and you go up, and then you have this weird, I don't know, experience of going into a very unassuming building with a tiny elevator. It's usually rickety. It usually like jangles around because it's supposed to be earthquake proof. You hit the button and you just open up, and the lift just opens up into like this expanse of like bodies and people and noise, and it's all because you looked a bit further than just what was that eye level. And so I think that, I don't know, just through that small experience of being able to look up and always be thinking about where I was and where it could take me, just through just being very present in my surroundings, that's kind of translated itself to other things. So it means that when I was there, like I wasn't always on my phone, like walking around. I mean, it was very safe. Like Tokyo is very safe to walk around. You can just walk around. You can drop it on the floor. It'll be there after 3 weeks. Like it's very safe. But because of the way the city is structured, I was not on my phone, and I was just looking around at, like, to see what I could find. And because of that, I came across the most like amazing things on the first floor. Like I discovered the strangest abandoned, I think, cafe. It was round the back of like an apartment building, and you go upstairs and it's covered in ivy, and there's like broken glass everywhere and framed paintings that someone painted, but they're kind of Renaissance, but they're kind of not. And yeah, it was, and someone opened a door and it stank like something should not smell. And there were cats running around, but the whole atmosphere of it was so peculiar and wonderful, and we ended up doing a shoot there. But just to say, I would not have found it if I was walking around looking down, being so absorbed in like myself or whatever I was doing. Just to have that experience is just is very, I don't know if it was a uniquely Tokyo experience or if they've got similar things elsewhere, but yeah, I just really started to appreciate my surroundings and what I could find. And because I was constantly looking around, it really helped to expand like my, I don't know, all my photo shoots are like, I get really frustrated when I see people come to Tokyo and they always shoot in Shibuya Crossing. This is like the same set I see in every music video. And I know it's really easy because it's like so iconic and it's open, it's big, whatever. But because I was always walking around Tokyo, it's a very walkable city, and I was always looking, I was able to find the most amazing sets, like the one I just said, the abandoned cafe with broken glass. Like it created such a beautiful atmosphere. There was also one that I just stumbled on. It was a tire park in the middle of a suburban area for kids, but all of there was sculptures, like it was made into like Godzilla and like robots, and everything was made out of tires. Just from walking around and just observing and looking and being present in the moment, I was able to literally expand and create new things. And what I'm trying to say is this kind of insular, only looking inwards is never going to be beneficial to you ultimately. And you cannot expand your worldview by looking literally and figuratively inwards. Yes, it's important to reflect, obviously, like I've got a lot of reflecting to do myself. But if we're constantly navel gazing, if we're constantly looking at only ourselves and what's in our immediacy, how can you expect to learn something new? How can you expect to improve your craft? You know, I think it applies to people who have a maybe a particular creative practice and they do, I don't know, one thing like ceramics, and you're only ever looking maybe at other ceramicists. But maybe if you looked at a mosaic artist, or maybe if you looked at, I don't know, crochet artist, you'd find more ways to appreciate and improve your own practice just by looking. Because there's a lot of information you can take in from just viewing something. The eyes connect to the brain, and as we know, the brain is very powerful and it interprets things. And while it may not make sense at the time, and you think, oh, that's cool, that looks nice aesthetically, like obviously things look nice, maybe later you would be able to connect the dots between what you've seen and then what you've perceived by your brain. I think a valuable lesson I've always had is obviously my initial focus, my creative focus, was always fashion, and so I was always looking at just Japanese fashion. But something I've always been told is like you need to expand. Like this is the word in my that's been pushed in my my vocabulary is that you need to expand. And by looking only at what's in our bubble and not expanding, you again, I'm saying the same thing. How can you expect to progress? Just going back to Tokyo and just like I was going to say the word awareness. That is not a word, awareness and clarity. Sorry, I watch a guy on YouTube and he uses this word awareness and it makes me laugh, but it's not a word. But being aware of your surroundings and being able also, I think I want to go back to this idea of the something flaw, because especially it applies to when you are so stuck in a certain way of thinking about a certain thing. And it's not until you have a moment of zooming out. So I guess visually, I would describe that as, okay, in Tokyo, there's this place called the Mori Art Museum in Roppongi. And on the actual museum is on like the 30 something floor. And you go in, and in the lift, you're kind of whooshed to the top of this building. And when I say whoosh, I mean whoosh, whoop, like it's like a head rush feeling, you know? And the lights change and you feel like you're going somewhere else. And you get out at the top and you can see the whole of Tokyo. And at the time when I went to this museum, I went a few times. It was one of those times where I just felt very like, oh, Tokyo isn't working for me. These people are doing this. Like the magazine isn't working out in this way. Oh, it's just the normal grumbles you have of things aren't working out for me immediately, so therefore I am annoyed about it. But I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the head rush. Maybe I was feeling lightheaded. Who knows? But as soon as I went to the top of this lift on the 35th floor and I looked out over Tokyo, and it was this zooming out, like literally zooming out, seeing the city that I lived in and seeing everything so small. And then some things like buildings were so big, and it was just all, it started to put things more into perspective that, okay, yes, things aren't immediately working in my favor. Yes, things are frustrating now, but I zoom out and I think, oh, I'm living in a completely different city. I am actually running a magazine, which I've never done before. And that's really cool. And everyone's supporting me. And maybe I just need to calm down. Maybe I just need to take a step back from my internal frustrations for a while because it's not helping me. And so kind of I think that's what I mean in a roundabout way when I'm talking about expanding our worldview and zooming out and just allowing our senses to do the work for us, allowing our eyes to do the literal work of zooming out or focusing in and being present and being mindful or appreciating new things. So moving away from Tokyo, like, I don't know if you can tell, I like to walk. I like to walk around. Even in London, even though it's not as safe as Tokyo, sorry, is you cannot have your phone out in London. So you have to be observant, like in a different way, you know? So I like to walk around and look at things. And I find a lot of inspiration on the tube, actually. Again, I'm a travel-y, tubey kind of gal. I look at a lot of like train ads. And do you know what I've noticed is there are a lot of ads for like theatre and exhibitions, like art exhibitions, photography exhibitions all around London. And it's always something that's kind of, it's not something like, I mean, the topics of the exhibitions are normally something I wouldn't be interested in, but I don't know, like it's making me think, oh, maybe I should try something a bit outside my comfort zone. And just being presented with them is reminding me of to try new things, but also reminding me that London as well is such a vibrant city. Like there's a lot going on. I feel like sometimes we can reduce our surroundings to, oh, it's because it's London, it's like this. It's like it's just this one way and it will never change, but not appreciating the details and looking out for like there's something special that could be occurring in that corner of the city or looking over there. Like there's always things happening. There's always things to look out for. And as soon as you open your eyes on the tube or wherever else, you'll find something that appeals to you, I think. And just as a side note, if you want to see something aesthetically pleasing, because that's what we want, in St. Pancras station, there's like a nice little walkway full of rainbow lights. And I just like to walk around there because I don't know, like there's something so lovely about finding a new part of your city or a new part of your surroundings, I guess, and appreciating it for what it is. I don't know. I do love lights. I think that's all this is really. There's no deeper meaning to I just love lights. Yeah. Like the ones behind me. So, and just going back to looking at our phones, because of course I'm going to talk about this. We can't talk about looking around without someone beating, what's the word? Beating the dead horse. That's not what the phrase is. Beating a horse. Beating the dead horse? Flogging the dead horse? I don't know. Whatever. We're beating something. And it's dead now. But we can't talk about it without talking about our cellular devices. What's confusing to me is how, on the tube especially, because there is no signal. So when people look at their phones on the tube, what are you looking at? What is it? I genuinely want to know. I don't know. Again, as an avid looker, I look at all the poems and all the weird adverts and people around me. Maybe they think I'm odd for looking at them, but that's something I really appreciate about London is the absolute like diversity and variety and all the stories and narratives that are played out in front of you when you're sitting across from someone, just from what they're wearing or like what their hair looks like, or like you can tell the dynamics between families and stuff. And maybe I don't know, that maybe would be a good exercise for a writer if you were to take some time and just sit in one spot on the tube or sit at one spot in the park and create a narrative around the people that you're seeing. Because that's what I like to do. And I'm not a writer, I'm just nosy. There's just so much we can gain sitting with ourselves in the moment and just allowing whatever's in front of us to come into us. Like this is kind of where the mindfulness comes in, because it's all about that noticing and being aware without judgment, and allowing whatever thoughts to just come in to your awareness, to think about, okay, what I'm seeing here is interesting. What I'm seeing here is weird. What I'm seeing here is different to what I am used to seeing. And these thoughts eventually can take you somewhere. It can take you somewhere and to lead you down a different path where maybe you didn't know you could go. And just all I'm saying, guys, it's really easy to and it's free to just look and slow down and just take in what you're seeing. It's free. So rather than, I guess, going on your phone, like, okay, there's, it's kind of similar, it's kind of dissimilar. There's, a bit in this book by Susan Sontag. She writes essays about various things on women, but this one on photography. She talks about the use of a camera as a device put between you and the subject to alleviate anxiety. And that's something I don't know, I resonated with a lot, because I don't think it's just the camera now, because right now, like most phones have cameras on them. So yes, I don't know about you, but when I'm in a moment of, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here, I'll lift up my phone, I'll look at Instagram or something. And I know when people go on holiday, like as well, like, oh, let's take a picture. Or if you don't know, if you're in a crowd of people or someone you barely know, like, oh, let me just take a picture, or like, let me go on my phone. And it kind of puts a physical barrier in between you and that other person, so you don't have to engage with them, which is quite sad. But thinking about it in the context of looking, it means you don't have to engage with what's next to you by having that phone. You create like some kind of distance. Like, is it that uncomfortable to just sit? Is it really that I don't know if disturbing is the word, but is it really that anxiety provoking to just sit there and look at one spot and be present with yourself and your thoughts? Maybe. But I think it's something that needs to be practiced over time. It's definitely not come easy to me. Sometimes I just sit in a park and I look out at whatever's happening, and that's enough. And those moments are my most reflective and my most relaxed moments. And I'm able to actually listen to myself and listen to my thoughts just because I have something new in front of me. Because if you're constantly looking at the same things, you're going to be receiving the same visual information and having the same thoughts. So that's why when it comes to creative things, I know people find it strange. I know, and I don't care. I will take a walk around. I will lie on the floor. I will leave the room. I will spin in a circle. I will do anything when I'm stuck and I'm trying to get back into my creative flow. Because as soon as you change your surroundings, you change your perception, right? So, for example, for myself, I went to a friend's to just do some co-working, and I was really stuck. I was like, I don't know what to do next. I've come up with all the ideas. I'm here and I'm looking at you and you're not giving me anything. Your face is the same as I've always seen it. Let me go look at something else. So I went and just lay on her floor, and she thought that I was not okay. In fact, I was perfectly okay. In fact, from just doing that, I came up with a new idea because I started looking at her bookshelf. And just from looking at the titles of these books, ones that I don't have around me, it kind of invited me into the mind of her and her husband, and what they may be thinking and how that related to me. And just one title grabbed my eye. It's like, oh, okay. Why has this grabbed my attention? Is there something that I need to think about now that I've seen this? And immediately I was like, oh, this is the answer I've been looking for the past hour. Okay. And that was it. That's all I needed. I just needed to do something a bit weird. I needed to lie on the floor. I needed to roll around. I needed to leave the computer screen. But immediately from that, because I made that effort to do that, I found my answer. And sometimes that's all it takes. It's just this simple thing of removing yourself from the box that you put yourself in. Because no matter how much you tell yourself, okay, I need to get this work done, I need to get this thing done, okay, I'm going to sit here and stare at my screen until it happens. It doesn't work. It never works. You need to be able to refresh yourself, refresh your mind, refresh everything. And the easiest way is to create alternate stimuli and create a new stimulus for your eyes and your brain and your perception, and just unlock something. And I don't know, that's always been something that works for me. Not just in creativity, just being able to understand things differently. I think phones can be kind of a forced stimulant. Yes, while we're scrolling on TikTok, technically you're looking at different things. But the way that the information is received is so overstimulating that your brain cannot process the amount of things that your eyes are being bombarded with. It's literally impossible. And I don't understand why we've taught ourselves that, or told ourselves even, that it is okay to treat our eyes and brain in this way, because it's not natural. And I'm not saying that I haven't done it. Okay, I'm a person like everybody. I'm on my phone, but at some point I snap out of it and I say, hey, this is like a casino. I'm just gambling my attention away. Because they do that. They really want to steal your attention. It's a larger currency, like a more valuable currency than money currently is your attention. So why would you waste your attention and give it to these technology companies who pretend to care about you and create apps for mindfulness where it's just more attention for the device in front of you. Because why would you look at an app when you could just look at nature? I was going to say go touch grass. That's the underlying meaning of this. Yeah, go touch grass essentially is, is what I want to say. I think what we have to understand is that what we are seeing through our eyes every day, it not only impacts your physical health via eye strain, it also impacts your mental health. So what are you even looking at? Because at this point, quite scarily, we're in the age of AI. So what we can't even make the distinction between what is real, what is AI, what has been made for us to be interpreted in a certain way. All we can do is take a step away from it, go and appreciate something. It doesn't even have to be nature. It can be your friends. You can just go see a friend, have a chat with them. And that is enough to take a step away, to remove yourself from that immediacy of the visual overload and the overstimulation. So even now, as I'm filming this, I have eye strain. And it's honestly, it's affecting the way I'm thinking because I I don't like to be like frivolous with my words and just ramble and say things, but just simply because of lights in this room, it's impacting the way that I'm thinking because I'm receiving too much light information into my brain. So apologies if I'm going on a tangent here. I just want to bring the conversation to a principle that I have in the NPR method, which is called DSE. It's called Do Something Else. And that is, again, kind of about doing and looking and experiencing new things and opening yourself up to new experiences. So something that the example I always give is if you always go down one road, you're always looking at the same things. You're always looking at the same shop, at the same cafe, or at the same door, etc., etc. But as soon as one day you maybe walk home from work and you walk down a different road, you'll see something new. I don't know about you, but whenever I take a different route somewhere, I feel like I've stepped into a new area, like in video games where you're like area unlocked, like it feels like that. It goes from gray to color. All of a sudden, I understand and I see things kind of differently. So I really encourage you to just do something else, look at something else, try something else. One of the weirder things about looking is I did a bookbinding course in January, February, March or something. And someone on my course, they were in this group chat and it was called Look. And I asked them, like, what's this group chat? Like, what is that about? And basically it was them and a bunch of strangers. Like, honestly, like people they didn't know them. And they would just send pictures of what they were looking at to each other in this group chat with no context and no words. And that was so intriguing. Oh my God. I didn't stop thinking about it for like a week. I was like, first of all, what if there were weirdos in that group chat? Because sometimes I don't want to be seeing whatever it is you're seeing. But also, it's so interesting because what have you identified that you think is interesting to share with other people that you don't know? Like, what is the prerequisite for this image that you're sending? Like, how can there be a common understanding of what's interesting when you literally don't talk to each other and you don't know if you share any interest with these people? But just because you're looking at something, you've sent it to a complete stranger. Isn't that so odd? Is that just me? I don't know. Maybe that's your sign to just like do an image only group chat with your friends rather than talking about what it is you had for lunch. I don't know. Maybe you have a lunch only group chat. I think that just kind of speaks to the power of like all these visuals that we have around us. Is that just one image and your username or your name can translate something about who you are and your personality and where you are and what you find interesting. And there's just so much that you can say with an image. So kind of leading on from that, I wanted to talk a bit about photography because this is just an interest of mine. Just I used to just take pictures, which led to me being interested in photography as like a medium. And so I've read a bit about like photographs, how to read images, and just thinking about this group chat, like, and what they was expressing, or even if they wanted to express anything, was very interesting. And I've got a quote from Diane Arbus. She was an American photographer, and she called it the endlessly seductive puzzle of sight. You know, like the way that images put things together in a complex way that ask you to figure them out. Whether it's just you just looking and taking a picture of like a sofa, why that sofa? Or why that landscape? Why have you decided to take pictures of the clouds today? And what do these clouds mean to you? And when did you take the picture? Is there a meaning for this? That kind of thing. There's like, you're putting the pieces together using so many different things. It's not just about the image, it's about who took the image. Like, you can infer so much meaning from that. I don't know, I love photography. It's so fun. So I was thinking about how we read a photograph, as in how we understand it, because literally, like, sometimes there's words, but most of the time there's no words. So I've got a lot of quotes from this book from, it's called The Photograph by Graham Clark. It's literally just a random book I picked up at a charity shop. Support your local charity shops, guys. They've got good books. So in the book, it says, the image is as much a reflection of the I, as in the letter I, of the photographer as it is the I, as in the physical eye of the camera. What I took from that is kind of this dialogue. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Like a visual dialogue between you and the image, and by proxy, the photographer. Like, you're having a conversation through these, I guess, pixels, or whatever medium it is. If it's through the phone, it's pixels, right? So you're having this conversation about yourself, or if it's the photographer is telling you something. And as you know, when I go to art exhibitions, sometimes I find it difficult to be able to understand this dialogue. Obviously, there's like a text or something next to the image, but sometimes you just like want to figure out for yourself, or just ask, like, be able to rely on your own perception, or ask yourself the questions without being prompted. I remember I read in Camera Lucida by Roland Barthes. He's a French philosopher. He talks about this thing called the punctum. So it's all about, okay, first you look at the image, you kind of ask yourself what the literal meaning of this image is. And then you find a small detail and you zoom in on it. And through this small detail that you've identified, maybe it's something you think, that's a bit odd, that's a bit out of place. Or maybe it's something that's a bit intriguing. And from there, that's that punctum, that puncture that you've identified, that's what starts opening up the image to you. So instead of just trying to always look at things in a very literal, okay, they positioned it in this way. Of course, we think about framing, we think about composition, we think about colors, lighting, etc. Have a look at the small details of what you're looking at. Find the puncture, find the little bit in an image, or whatever it is, if it's not an image, of whatever it is you're looking at, and figure out what it is that's intriguing to you, or just observe it. If you can't figure it out, that's fine, but just observe it and tap into it and reflect on it. And I can assure you, like, it just makes looking at things, it starts shifting and changing, and you can start to perceive things a little differently, or from another perspective, or something like that. Because with this kind of dialogue that you're having, this punctum, however you're reading the photographer is asking you to see something through their eyes, in the way, you've been walking around, you're living your life, you always see things through your eyes. But photography sometimes asks you to just step into the shoes of another. And sometimes it's hard because the subject matter isn't something that you're at all familiar with, or that is maybe slightly uncomfortable. But if you give yourself the chance to deconstruct that and deconstruct your own thinking and ask yourself some questions, it will really, really start to expand your worldview and your thinking and your creativity, or whatever it is that you're in your life path you're searching for and looking to expand your learning. I think sometimes an image in itself can be complex. So there's like a lot of moving parts. Maybe there's, I don't know, if you think about Renaissance paintings, there's like a woman lying down, there's a dog, and there's a horse, and there's someone eating a turkey leg or something. And you're like, what is going on in this scene? You have to just, whoa, you have to ask yourself, what's going on? But again, like we go back to the punctum, you find the small detail and you think, okay, why is that dog afraid of that woman? Then you follow their line of vision, because always following people's eyes is the way in, I think. Following your eyes, it's weird. If you follow your eyes and then follow their eyes, we're going to create some kind of pattern here. But that's the way into understanding. And sometimes an image is so simple, like, I don't know, I know a lot of people get mad at modern art if it's like a dot or a square or something. Isn't that so simple that it makes it complex? Because I don't know, to be fair, I get mad at modern art too. I'm really trying to like boost modern art here, but sometimes even for me, like a square is just a square. If you have a bit more patience than me, then maybe you can understand the complexities of the square. So what I'm trying to say is in with relevance to photography in particular, or anything that comes into our frame of vision, everything has a historical, a cultural, like an aesthetic frame of reference that we have to consider. Because when I talk about looking, it's more than just looking. Obviously, it's more than just looking. It's truly seeing things. It's truly observing. These are all look words, obviously. Looking, seeing, observing, noticing. If we take all of these different versions of looking, what action are we taking? When you are carrying out this practice of looking, are you watching? Are you noticing? Are you observing? Are you seeing? Because I think seeing is the final act of watching. Seeing is coming to the heart of what it is that you are looking at. So maybe you can apply this to, I know I'm talking round and round and round here, but ultimately, whether it's photography or any other visual medium or just your surroundings, how are you observing it? What are you looking at? Are you even looking at it? And I hope that you can look up from your phone for a hot second and actually manage to look at it and see it for what it is. So the last thing I want to say before I wrap up this is just from a technology perspective, that different cameras have different lenses. If we apply this kind of analogy to just general looking, and we all have different lenses of perception with different distortions, we can't undistort things, but we just have to accept that our way of looking at things is not going to be the ultimate way or the only way of looking at things. So that's my little spiel on looking and noticing and photography. I hope in a roundabout way that kind of made sense to you. If not, listen to it again. But my challenge or question for you is to take a journey where you're just not looking at your phone and really taking in your surroundings, and then note down whatever it is that you noticed and what thoughts came up relative to it. And similarly, looking at a photo, like what meaning can you take from it? Maybe it's just like a holiday photo, or maybe something you took a picture of recently. Like, why did you do that? Not in a bad way, but why, And maybe even use your camera to have like a little creative moment. I don't know, take a picture of something that interests you, or take a series of pictures that interest you. I don't know. Just have a little moment with photography and see the themes that crop up in your life. So thanks for listening to this podcast. If you would like to join a workshop or take a course or talk to me one-on-one, please visit Pensive Studio. Also, I hand make planners, which is really cool. So please check that out on the website. If you're interested in being a guest or giving me, I don't know, your thoughts about this episode, please email podcast@pensive.studio. And thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next one.